Hi, everyone. This is Caroline with Thriving Abroad, the Expat interviews, where I get an opportunity to talk with expats from all across the globe who are living fabulous lives, who lived fabulous lives, and who have done amazing things outside of their home country. And so excited to have an opportunity to talk with this young man who has done amazing things. And I want to set it up because if you have ever, especially for those that maybe lived in the US, if back in the day when there was the Barnes and Nobles or the Borders bookstores, you remember when you wanted to travel, you'd go to the travel section and you'd see these awesome travel books. Well, this gentleman is responsible for one that we're going to talk about in just a moment. Welcome, Joshua Berman. Thank you so much, Josh, for the opportunity to talk with you. I'm very excited. So first, let's do a little backstory on you. Right now, you're in the US, but you are a traveler, a writer. How did your expat journey begin? How did it start for you?
It really began with the Peace Corps in 1998. I was 23 years old, and the Peace Corps, I signed up and they sent me to Nicaragua. And I was kind of just starting a writing career. And as luck would have it, I got to Nicaragua. I did my Peace Corps service there and working with the Ministry of Education. And we kind of witnessed the birth or the rebirth of tourism there. And there really was no guidebook in sight. So my buddy Randy Wood and I, we wrote the first edition of the first ever complete thorough guidebook just on Nicaragua, because after Peace Corps, we were still living there. Randy worked with the Army Corps of Engineers afterward, and I did freelance writing and some trip leading as well. So that was, since 1998. I spent a good part of that next decade in and around Nicaragua in various roles and jobs, and then also bopping around Central America quite a bit.
So you were fortunate to be there before the heyday, when the tourism started booming, and actually when it was all over the magazines. Every time you picked up a travel magazine, Nicaragua was one of the it places. What was that like for you initially living? Because I don't believe I was there when you first got there, but what was it like? Because there's parts that are very rural and parts that people don't really get to know about. What was it like though in the beginning for you? Were you feeling like it was a third world country?
It was pretty it was pretty real. It was pretty rough around the edges. It was, we've seen a lot of changes over the last few decades there. One of which is everything's just cleaner overall. There and rural spots that really haven't changed too much. And it's that mix, because I doing the guidebook, and this was the first edition that we wrote that came out in 2001, and then every 3 years or so we would do a new edition, and this was one of the others. And so we really got to take a snapshot every couple of years and do a check-in and re-travel the entire country, talk with everybody in tourism. And eventually Randy and I also wrote this, the Living Abroad book, which was geared toward expats who were living there for all kinds of different reasons. So this explained how to get through everything from the legal aspects to the cultural aspects of living there. But yeah, it was there were really barely any hotels, certainly not many that were geared toward tourists. So when we first started writing the book, we really had to explain to people, to hotel owners all over the country, especially in these smaller towns where it's just a little hospedaje. And we had to explain to them what the guidebook is, that, this doesn't cost anything. We're trying to help tourism all across Nicaragua. We're trying to help tourists find where to stay and what to do. But it really was awesome being there. before, and really, you know, that yes, there was kind of a boom of tourism and a lot of investment. You know, years later, I mean, last couple of years aside, this standard article for 20 years was Nicaragua the undiscovered gem, or the next hot spot or whatever. But that same story really never changed. It still had that edgy kind of side to it that was very attractive for a certain kind of tourist and a certain kind of expat who was willing to go and really find out what it was like for themselves.
I remember seeing your books in every hostel that I ever went in and worked in. I mean, those books were the go-to book. And oftentimes I'd be on the bus and I'd see people, you know, the tourists, the backpackers, they were holding the book and just using it as a guide. So Nicaragua has been through a lot of changes. And how many years did you live there in total?
I mean, it probably adds up to around 5 or 6 years total, but a lot of that was, you know, Peace Corps was 2.5 years, and then there was another year after that working on the first edition. And when we wrote that first edition of the book, it was 400 paid Nicaragua, and at that time, you had those big Central America guidebooks that had all the countries in Central America, and there was this route, and Nicaragua maybe had 50 pages in it. And just enough to guide the tourist on their ticabús to Managua and Granada and San Juan del Sur, and then they're gone. And that really changed. So we spent quite a bit of time, especially those first couple of editions, really scouring the country. But yeah, I'd say probably 5 or 6 years total. But yeah, I've been there almost every year for 20 something years. The guidebook work actually led to some television production work where international film crews would contact me to be their fixer and to help set up all the logistics and storylines of their show. And I was able to do that for a number of years too. So that was fascinating. Really, again, continuing to explore the country. Every single trip, every single show was a deep dive into coffee, street food, sports. So that, you know, I got to continue to learn about the country and go deeper and deeper. And that was a great gig, just to, you know, my job was to explore every corner of the country and the culture.
How long does it take to put together a guidebook like that? Because it's very extensive. I mean, every city, you know, there's just so much that goes into it. How long would it take you on average? The
So
updates, I imagine, aren't as bad as, I mean, just sitting down and writing it out from scratch, right?
yeah, the updates always took longer than we've planned on them taking. A lot of times you really did have to approach a city as if you were going there for the first time. That's really the only way to be able to find all of the new hotels and tour operators and find the ones who have closed down. So it was a lot of work. I mean, Moon is pretty unique in that the author's name is on the cover. We own the copyright to our work, and they really wanted us to have a voice and to be this. They encouraged the same authors to keep doing the book, whereas other guidebook companies might hire a writer to just parachute in and give them a really limited amount of time and money to get the work done. So the benefit to the way we did it was we were so connected with the country that we were able to use all of our contacts and networks to make a really quality book. So from the time we signed a contract to do the new edition to the time the new edition came out, usually was a good year and a half process of getting the contract ready and then doing months of research, and that would be a combination of Randy and I doing the footwork ourselves, and then sometimes for some editions we would hire some local experts out to help us get the work done in the amount of time. But yeah, it was quite a bit of of traveling and phone calls and confirming and hotel inspections. So
What is your favorite city, your favorite part of Nicaragua?
I have a soft spot for Esteli in the north. My Peace Corps village was La Trinidad in Esteli, just 22 kilometers south of Esteli. So just those lush green hills and the cool temperatures and the cheeses that, there's just, I definitely am probably more connected to the north, to Esteli, Matagalpa areas. But it was also my job to kind of love every single part of the country. So, I mean, I loved Granada for being the hub of the tourism zone. I loved the southwest coast, the Emerald Coast, for the way that those really unique individual resorts would come up along the coast there. Ometepe, there's nothing like Ometepe in the world. So that's always special there. The Atlantic coast, and of course Leon and all the volcanoes there. So it's definitely hard to narrow it down, but yeah, I love the job too, is really having to come in. And actually, we once got dinged, I think in the first edition, we actually waxed a little too romantically about the cobblestone streets of Leon, or I forget where it was. And somebody wrote in saying, maybe you should, that we were like painting it a little bit too nice, but that's what travel writers do.
Yeah, and I think also they would talk about the artists, the sidewalk artists and things like that. But that was only occasionally in Leon. So some of the writers used to get flack about that too, painting it a little bit too French and picturesque. But so I wanted to just touch a little bit on 2018. You weren't actually there when the protests began, but you were working on the latest edition of the new guidebook, because in 2018 January, Nicaragua is on the map. Everywhere is booked. The tours are booked. The tour agents can't book fast enough. Nicaragua is on the map. And in April, the whole world changed for Nicaragua. What was that like for you? It was just in an instant.
It was really devastating to watch it happen, especially from afar. I mean, I spent a good part of the summer of 2017 in the country, staying in a different hotel every single night, just blitzing through the country and doing a really thorough updated research round and hiring a couple of people. And there were some big developments that had happened for that. That was the 7th edition of the book. And there was going to be a whole new section on this whole new high-end resort scene that had taken investment in some of these higher-end hotels that were charging up to $1,500 a night, like African safari style things, and that was exciting, because not that there's a huge number of tourists that come and do that, but that helps to establish the industry, and it really does help. I mean, so I would stay in a $15 a night hospedaje one night, and then a $150 or even $1,000 a night place the next night, and just keep going between those. So when I do that, I speak with every single hotel owner, I speak with every single tour operator. And a lot of these people are my friends who I've watched their businesses grow and developed over 20 years. And we've helped each other quite a bit with that. So it's a very personal project for me. I feel like it's almost an extension of my Peace Corps service to be able to help hundreds of small businesses by putting them in the book and helping to explain to them what my readers are looking for. So we had done that research. I did the footwork in the summer. I wrote it up mostly in the fall. Had done all the corrections through the winter. My whole team at Avalon Travel Publishing in California that does Moon, they had laid the book out. I'd submitted all my photos. I have a PDF, the book. We're literally making the final corrections when everything changed in the spring of 2018. And I'm watching it and literally watching tourist sites, the market in Messiah, businesses were literally burnt to the ground. And then tourism stopped on a dime, and you had hundreds of millions of dollars just halted. And who can survive that kind of thing? And so a lot of businesses that were listed in the book just started closing and closing and closing. The book was scheduled to come out that December, or November, December, is the way that the calendar works for Latin America books. And we made the really difficult decision to cancel the publication and to wait. And that it really is going to take another round of research to repaint what it's like there. But really, yeah, horrible to see that happen. I didn't really care so much for my book being canceled, but I mean, literally, the tourism industry was canceled, and that affects so many more people than just me. So I've kind of been waiting, and we're going to see what happens next. All of my television jobs have stopped cold. All of any tour guiding that I was doing there have stopped, and yeah, I'm hoping that there's an election this year, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. What, in your opinion, you've had time to live there. People oftentimes that live in countries like Nicaragua, we tend to try to look out for the locals and help them. Do you feel that the future is looking like we'll be able to go back? Maybe the Peace Corps, I also remember the Peace Corps withdrawing the program while just shortly before I left because of everything that was going on. But what do you see for the future? I mean, do you see possibilities for others, the tourism? I mean, your book, Nicaragua. What are some of your thoughts about the future?
I am positive about the future, or I mean, I think I'm hopeful that some semblance, some form of the tourism will come back. Hopefully, and hopefully this goes for all over the world, but that a better version of tourism comes back that's not so Nicaragua was always attractive for its authenticity, and yes, there became an established gringo route that people would do, or a standard 7-day or 10-day trail that people would follow. But what I found in Nicaragua is there were so many small places, non-corporate places, and that part of the adventure of going there was to go and stay in the family-owned hospedaje. And that I was reporting on in the 7th edition, you had this ultra high end, but you also had this continuation of the development of these opportunities, these community tourism opportunities, La Garnacha near Esteli and Miraflor, where you would have these set it together to invite activities and wonderful foods and everything for them. So, and that you really could find that all over the country. And I think because of that, and again, those are the small businesses that probably did not survive. But because these are diverse communities that are probably more dependent on agriculture than tourism, or at least can divert toward agriculture and then maybe back tourism when it happens. So I am hopeful in that way. I think that's one of the prime attractions of Nicaragua is the rural agritourism part of it, that there's opportunities all over the country for that. And I think that's something that could come back. I think it'll be the same type of traveler that does come back. But again, I think when things open back up, hopefully it's some kind of opportunity to kind of relook at what does each country, what really would benefit Nicaragua and who would benefit there from the tourists coming in. And I think they did a pretty good job of spreading people out. kind of as opposed to the cruise ship day tours on a bus that would do their canned little things and not leave that much money in the country. But it was really the overnight visitor that's going to come and hopefully have a good balance with the country.
And now, does that mean that you hope to continue on your editions of Nicaragua, or do you have any other countries lined up that you'd like to work on?
I would love to go back to writing about Nicaragua. There's very few countries I would want to go and do that work again. Belize was the other one that I did for many years. But when it comes down to it, the amount of work to keep the book going, you really have to. I mean, for me, I'm tied personally to the country in many ways, and it would be amazing to go and to bring that work back out. The other book that I currently do is it's a guidebook to campgrounds in Colorado, which is also fun to research. And again, that gets updated every 4 years, but not much changes at these campgrounds. So I would love to do the work again in Nicaragua. I'd love to bring my kids down the next time that I do an edition. My kids are now 7, 10, and 13 years old. The oldest came to Nicaragua on a research trip with me when she was a year and a half. So it's a dream of mine to get them down there and to see what the work is, to walk around these towns and talk to dozens and dozens of Nicaraguans and expats from all over the world. I mean, that was another big part of the job, is meeting these expat communities in every single city in Nicaragua. Each had a different little scene. So those were, and they're always fun characters.
Yeah, very interesting. So Nicaragua, I mean, in the future, do you see yourself maybe retiring there? Would that be a possibility? Have a summer home, a vacation home?
Yeah, I would love to get a connection there again. My last trip there, everywhere I went, I was trying to plant seeds here and there, talking to all these just people in the travel industry. And, my wife is a healthcare worker. She's a nurse. Idea that we could there, and she could work in the clinic and I could work in the school, and we could do some travel work together and our kids could be there is, yeah, definitely a dream that I hope can still happen someday.
Any last words of advice for someone who might be considering Nicaragua as a country? Maybe not today or tomorrow, but for the future, when it is back to being Nicaragua again in its great form. Any words of advice, any last words of encouragement?
So I think the biggest advice that we would give in the Living Abroad book was to do a really good, thorough scouting trip, and to take that seriously, and do not assume that you know anything about the country before going there, because there really is no way to describe it. It's not Costa Rica. It's not the next Costa Rica. That was the other trope.
It's the new Costa Rica, right?
I've probably used that a couple of times back in the day when in the late 90s, when I was seeing where Costa Rica was and seeing where Nicaragua could be. And there's elements of it. Costa Rica has some of those amazing, also some of those great community tourism opportunities in the rainforest and on the beaches. But it's just different. The people are different. The country's different. If you've been to Costa Rica a half a dozen times and people have said to you, oh, you should check out Nicaragua, you should check it out. It's not for everybody, and it's not easy. And it's unlike anywhere else in Central America or Latin America or the world. So really take seriously the scouting trip, have fun with it, go to different parts of the country, seek out the expats who live there, buy them a coffee, buy them a beer or 6, and get their legitimate opinions on it. And yeah, just do your homework. But the homework is fun because it means going there and discovering.
And it is a beautiful country. Joshua, thank you so much for these moments of insight into Nicaragua and your books. And it's so nice to put the face with the book and the person behind this wonderful guy that I have seen. And I'm sure most people that watch this video are going to be like, "Oh my God, I remember I saw that book in the bookstore or in the hostel or on the beach." Thank you so much and hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll be doing a lot more Nicaragua in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, and see everybody out there, and see you on the road, and stay tranquilo.